So we are changing the sprocket kit on this Duke 390. The chain on this motorcycle is uneven and makes a lot of noise. Tried adjusting the chain many number of times, but still there is a lot of friction and there are a lot of noises and vibrations which this entire system has been creating. So I'm going to change the front sprocket, the chain and the rear sprocket, which comes as a complete kit. The motorcycle now has the stock chain sprocket kit, and this is the kit which I'll be using. This is the rear sprocket. This kit has got the rear sprocket, the front sprocket and a brass plated chain. In comparison to the conventional chain, this chain has a brass coating, and these are some of the salient features of this chain, that is corrosion resistance, lustrous aesthetic, enhanced wear resistance due to quadruple sealing. So let's start off by taking off the stock chain kit. First we take off this front sprocket cover. Wheel spindle is then loosened. Followed by loosening this lock nut and pushing out the chain tightening bolts. Chain is then dismissed from the rear sprocket. Rear wheel spindle is taken off. To take off the rear wheel, we then pull the caliper a bit outwards. Rear wheel can then be taken off. Front sprocket is taken off by engaging the motorcycle in first gear. The front sprocket locking plate is pulled off. Here comes the front sprocket. And to take the chain off, the front foot peg assembly has to be taken off and the chain cover to be loosened. First we disconnect the gear pedal. This 14mm nut and 14mm bolt is removed. As this bolt connects all the way to the other side, holding the engine to the chassis, it may rotate on the other side while loosening this nut, so it has to be locked and then loosened. We'll then have another one loosened. This bolt runs only till this part. This can be loosened directly. This 19mm swing arm bolt is then loosened. The gear shifter arm is taken off. The front foot peg assembly now comes off. And now loosening the chain cover. Here comes the stock chain. And all this grunk which is present at the sprocket housing is cleaned. So just a basic clean, and there is no point of thorough cleaning it as this area is meant to get dirty. Again, a basic clean of this guide rail. That is all with the basic cleaning of this foot peg assembly. I have just scraped off the hardened grunk. We now have our wheel supported at the bottom with the sprocket facing upwards, sprocket off from the wheel, and these metal locks which lock the sprocket nuts is taken back with a screwdriver and a hammer, and we now place the sprocket back onto the wheel and loosen these 6 sprocket nuts to take off the rear sprocket. I have already loosened them with the ratchet. I am just pulling out the nuts. And there comes these metal lockers. And the sprocket is now off. So now before we mount the new sprocket in, we clean the sprocket seating surface with a plain brush. Also this area where the front sprocket contacts the output shaft. As these surfaces are now clean, there is one important component which is to be inspected while changing the sprockets. That is this, the rubber damping kit. As I have changed it recently, I'm gonna use the same. It is recommended to change these rubber dampers while replacing the sprocket kit, as these play a major role in enhancing the sprocket life. At the same time, these bearings can also be checked. If there is play or friction in the bearings can be changed too. And I'm gonna make another complete video on the replacement of wheel bearings, which is gonna come shortly. With this done, the rear sprocket is first installed. Sprocket nut locks are put in place. Sprocket nuts are then fastened. These are then torqued at 32 Newton meters. These locks are then pulled in place. And the rear sprocket is installed such that the printed mark on the sprocket faces outside. Coming to the front sprocket, sprocket has to be installed with the chain in place, and it is installed this way, the printed mark facing outwards like this. And here we have the chain taken inside the swing arm. So this chain comes this way. The sprocket is placed in the chain and then installed. Front sprocket is locked with this plate. And with motorcycle engaged in first gear, these two bolts are torqued at 15 Newton meters. Once this is done, the chain is routed back to the rear sprocket. So we'll take the chain on top of this. And here goes this support. This bolt is installed, which fastens the chain cover. Followed by securing this connection at the rear. And then goes this, the left foot peg assembly. And this bolt goes in. This nut and this bolt is tightened between 50 to 55 Newton meters. And before tightening this swing arm nut, there is an adjuster inside. Adjuster is there to close this gap between the swing arm bush and the foot peg assembly. This adjuster is turned clockwise until there is no space between the swing arm bush and the foot peg assembly. The gap is now almost nil, and there goes this hex washer. Followed by the swing arm nut. This swing arm nut is then torqued at 100 Newton meters. And here we have the wheel fixed, chain tightened and lubricated, and the front sprocket cover fixed. And this completes the drivetrain replacement of the Duke 390. Many thanks for watching, and please subscribe for much related information on the repairs.